Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It is 5:06. It's O'Connor and Company on Tuesday, the second day of Wednesday. It's Wednesday, everybody. Nobody panic. It's Wednesday. Imagine the people who just woke up thinking that they got caught in a time warp. It's Wednesday, July 2nd. Thanks for tuning in to our little program here as we get you started the right way. It's 6:35. Cal Thomas will be here. 7:05, Byron York. 8:05, Julio Rosas was on the ground at Alligator Alcatraz. And then at 8:35, Susan Ferriccio. Look at that. Thomas, York, Rosas, and Ferriccio. And, of course, let's not forget Gunlock. Julie Gunlock.
It's a great lineup today. Good morning.
I just did a James Bond thing with you.
You did?
Her name is Gunlock. Julie Gunlock.
There you go.
I had a minor debate with my brother-in-law yesterday about James Bond because I see I may be an outlier here and I'm going to lose all my conservative credentials. But if they make a great Bond movie and they happen to cast a great actor of color to play Bond, I'm fine with that. Doesn't bother me.
Yeah, me too.
Everyone's like, "Oh, James Bond has to be white." What? Who says?
Yeah, it's funny because I am really annoyed when they take like Anne Boleyn and make her black. That annoys me. Okay.
See, I don't care.
That's an actual historical. That's an actual person.
Okay, hold on.
James
so this
Bond
is my point.
Is fictional.
Have you ever seen a production of Julius Caesar? The Shakespearean play Julius Caesar.
Yes.
Do they cast non-Italians as Julius Caesar and as all of the Roman Senate?
Okay, give me a break.
What?
Well, first of all, it would annoy me if these are actual historical figures.
Yeah.
And they're making them, Chinese. Like, no, there was also in the
great
Tudor
actor's
court.
A great actor. Doesn't matter. It's great.
Right,
it's great. Great work. Great theater.
And that's
they're not
why
making a documentary.
That's why I'm fine on one of these fictional characters like James Bond. But Larry, you know what they're doing when they're sort of redoing or having these.
This is so funny. This is exactly the debate I had with my brother-in-law.
No. It's like, different.
Of course, I know what they're doing.
James Bond is a fictional.
Of course, yes. They're if they're doing it for political commentary. And I see through it, and it doesn't affect me, but it's still a good movie, then it's still a good movie. It doesn't matter. Just because they've tried to inject their politics in it, and it didn't work on me, doesn't change my enjoyment
Anne Boleyn was not black.
Right, that's
Anne
true.
Boleyn was not Vietnamese. Okay?
Julius Caesar was Italian.
I mean, no, but frankly, I feel like the today's Italians are in no way related to the Romans.
So did it bother you when they made the Little Mermaid black?
No,
because she's fictional. There were people upset about that. I was like, why are you upset about that?
Oh, well, I think I understand why people are upset because they have to redo everything in this sort of DEI way, right? They have to have a black actress in every role in every movie. They have to remake everything. Kind of annoys me, yes. But Little Mermaid is not an actual person. Anne Boleyn is an actual person. So that's where I draw the line. I'm probably frankly more on your brother's side in general.
It sounds
because I find
because like him, you enjoy arguing with me.
Okay, for instance, Buccaneers. Okay, but if they redid it, Apple TV, there was. Obviously the novel The Buccaneers, right? And then they made a mini series in the 90s, very close to the book. Right. And then they redid it. They're doing new episodes now on Apple TV. And they made one of the girls black. These were American girls at the turn of the century that went to England and married wealthy aristocratic men. And they made one of the girls black. And they actually had her have some sort of race quarrel with one of the British mother-in-laws in this very modern way. So that annoys me. That was, of course, not in the book, right? So do you see why it would annoy me? That because they change also the storyline.
Yeah. Well, they decided to tell a different story than the book. That's all. The storytellers decided to tell a different story. You didn't like the story. Not every story is for everybody. Some people probably liked that change.
I'm sure Edith Wharton, the author of the book, wouldn't like that change.
Depends on what her estate got for the
And it's a much
the royalties.
It's a much lesser. The thing is it's a much lesser story because it's focused on this modern crap instead of what the book. The book's original point about sort of wealth and betrayal and revenge and things like that. That still stands today. Those are still interesting concepts today. We don't have to infuse them with race issues.
They don't have to, but for some reason the studio decided to do it, and if they lost money, they deserve to lose money if it's bad storytelling. My point is they can infuse race in there for the purposes of political commentary, and yet it still be a good story despite their ham-handed attempts to put in political commentary.
You don't think that comes at a cost?
It can't be a good story?
You don't think? No, because it comes at a cost. It's a distraction. It had nothing to do with the original story.
But is it possible that someone who does... So I've never read that original story. I have no idea what the original story is. Can I still get enjoyment out of the movie? Without comparing it to the novel that I never read?
No, it's bad storytelling. They're taking a good story, they're altering it, they're infusing things that were never in the original story as a distraction from the original story.
So have you ever seen West Side Story?
Yes.
Okay. Do you like it? Is it good?
Yeah. I mean,
But it's based on Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet didn't live in New York, and there were no Puerto Ricans involved.
No. Okay. They didn't
and there was no singing
they didn't
and
make
dancing.
Romeo and Juliet. Look, they've done this with Clueless, which is originally Emma, right? They do this all the time. And nobody thinks that they're trying to redo Emma. And they didn't title it Emma, okay? Jane Austen's Emma. If they were trying to make Jane Austen's Emma and then made Clueless,
and set it
I'd
in
have
Beverly
a problem.
Hills.
I'd have a problem.
Really? That's hilarious. See, I think it would have been very creative if they said it's a new take on Emma and they set it in Beverly Hills at the high school and it was all in the 90s. And it's like, it was. That's exactly what they did.
That's exactly what they did. But
all they did was rename it Clueless.
They called it something different.
And that's creative.
And I'm fine with it. What I'm annoyed with is if they actually say Jane Austen's Emma and they cast,
all right.
They didn't try to make Jane Austen's Emma. They made Clueless.
And my whole point is, and I guess maybe it's because I used to live in the entertainment industry and live surrounded by these people who thought they were being
You're a
so
theater
clever.
kid. I know.
Thank you. I resent that. I actually was a professional adult who could sustain my life in the business of theater. Theater kids are people who have dreams of being on stage.
Jazz hands.
Yes, and they sing Mary Poppins while they're joining the federal government to censor you on social media. That's a theater kid. I actually was a professional.
I didn't even look at the show. What were we supposed to talk about?
This is what we're talking about.
Okay.
So my point is, I think I was surrounded by these people who were so pretentious and thought that they were being so important by injecting politics into it. And I worked on productions like that. And I'd be like, okay, I know you're trying to make this big, important statement, but if you're not good at telling a story, none of it matters. So let's make sure we tell a good story. So if people maybe overlook your politics, they still enjoy themselves and they're entertained.
No,
and it's possible to do that.
No.
It is possible to do that. And you think it's impossible?
No, I think it is impossible because the politics are a complete distraction, take over the story, and it's the most important thing they are trying to convey.
All right. Last challenge to you on this. Again, I'm not trying to convince you. I just think it's informative for our audience who probably had this exact same debate at some point in the last few years.
Yeah.
You saw the movie Wicked.
I did.
That is a retelling of the characters of Wizard of Oz, is it not?
Yes.
And it is chock full of politics, isn't it?
Sure.
Did you enjoy it?
I did, yeah.
Did you agree with the politics?
It wasn't Wizard of Oz. It was not Wizard of Oz.
I'm not saying it was Wizard of Oz. I'm saying it was a very political movie utilizing characters that you already knew in a different medium.
It wasn't in your face.
Are you kidding me? Wicked is very in your face.
Okay, but listen, again, it's a prequel. It's not related. They didn't redo. They didn't make Dorothy black. Okay, so
just wait till part 2. Yo, my name's Dorothy. What's going on with this tornado?
There is something about telling a totally new story related to an old story or using an old story to do something that's wildly that in no way looks like the original story. Then taking for instance, taking an Evelyn Waugh book and there was a retelling of it that was very close to the book, respectful of Evelyn Waugh, and then redoing it in a way that's politicized, that in no way reflects, or in this case, when I talked about the Buccaneers, Edith Wharton, in no way respects Edith Wharton's vision, inserts characters and ideas that weren't there.
One thing who's Evelyn Waugh?
Oh, it's another author that
it's
has
5:15.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
So my daily check-in with everyone to see if you are if you are tired of all the winning yet. That's my question today. Are you tired of all the winning? Julie, it's been 22 hours since we were on the air, right? We were off the air 9 a.m. Eastern Time. It's now a little 5:15 a.m. the next day. In the last 22 hours, President Trump announced a ceasefire between Israel and Palestine if the Gazans, the Hamas, agree to it. Also, President Trump toured and officially opened the Alligator Alcatraz facility. Also, the Trump administration announced that for the second month in a row, there were 0 illegal immigrants released into the United States. Also, the Trump administration announced that the University of Pennsylvania has agreed to reverse its policy allowing men to compete in women's sports. Furthermore, they will apologize
and reinstate
every woman who was on the University of Pennsylvania swim team, including a friend of this program, Paula Scanlon, who had to endure the humiliation of disrobing with the athlete known as Leah Thomas in the locker room. Furthermore, the University of Pennsylvania will reverse every record at the school that was achieved by allowing a man to compete against women. Furthermore, the Trump administration announced, and this is just 3 hours ago, so it happened while everyone was sleeping, that they have reached a $30 million settlement with CBS News over their alteration of the interview with Kamala Harris. They are not admitting any journalistic malfeasance, but the suit had to do with election interference. Trump contended that their manipulation of the interview and their refusal to release the entire transcript, which they never did until the FCC forced them to, was tantamount to election interference. CBS offered a $15 million lawsuit a month ago. Trump rejected it. That has now been doubled. They will get the $30 million payment. CBS will not admit to any malfeasance. However, they will now, from this point forward, release in a timely manner the full transcript of every interview that news agency conducts with a presidential candidate during an election. I ask you again, are you tired of the winning? That's the last 22 hours right there that I laid out for you.
It is just incredible what a transformative president he is. You think about that. Listen, I have so much to say on each of those, but you think about the CBS ruling, right?
Yeah.
That is a signal to these horrible mainstream media outlets. You're not going to do this anymore. You aren't shameless. Yeah, shameless liars. Your book title is perfect. You are not going to do this anymore. You are not going to coordinate with the campaign of your choice and hide who these candidates are. You are going to release this information. You're not going to choose the winner anymore. We're done. We're done. It is incredible. And again, this is the kind of fight that we talk about when he gets made fun of. But he fights for us, because ultimately a lot of voters couldn't make informed decisions because CBS hid the reality of that interview.
People will say, he won the election, a bigger man would just walk away. You know what? I'm glad he's not a bigger man, because if he lost the election, it would have been mission accomplished for CBS News and the shameless liars there. And by the way, you're going to love this. The mandate to release the transcript of an interview with a presidential candidate in a timely fashion that CBS News has now agreed to, they're referring to it as the Trump rule.
It's so delicious.
Due to the Trump rule, we will put out this transcript immediately. You're right. We can talk about each and every one of those issues at length, and we will as the morning goes on. I left one out. The tax cut, every single tax cut that President Trump promised during the campaign that is now wrapped up in the reconciliation package, which sadly continues to be referred to as one big, beautiful bill. Stop calling it that. Call it what it is, a tax cut. Nobody wants to vote against a tax cut, okay? So call it what it is, a tax cut. It did pass, finally, with J.D. Vance casting the tie-breaking vote in the Senate yesterday, so he had that victory as well. I ask you again, my friends, my fellow Washingtonians, my countrymen, are you tired of the winning? 523.
Making sense of your world.
Talk radio is where I get all of my information.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL. Making sense of the news.
Coming up, there's a really interesting interview with Jake Tapper. He was talking to Ezra Klein, and he reveals more about the last Trump-Biden debate, the one that Biden messed up so badly, and his thoughts on it. Really explains and shows how the left-wing media was really rooting for Biden. We know that, but this latest recording is really interesting. We'll share it with you. Keep it here. It's 5:30.
WMAL FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:36 on O'Connor and Company. Thanks so much for being part of our Wednesday morning extravaganza. We're kicking a little bootay today because we're not tired of winning. I did the litany of all the things that have happened in the last 22 hours, including University of Pennsylvania apologizing to all the women on the swim team for having to deal with Leah Thomas. They're restoring all the records. We're going to get into all of those deals coming up in a bit. Also, a announced ceasefire agreement between Hamas and Israel. Israel has agreed to it. So listen, if Israel's fine with it, I'm fine with it. We'll see if Hamas agrees to it. We'll get into those details coming up in a minute. A ton of incredible stories over the last 22 hours that we're going to try to unpack for you. At 6:35, Cal Thomas will be here. 7:05, Byron York will be here. 8:05, Julio Rosas, who is at Alligator Alcatraz. And then at 8:35, Susan Fricho will tell us if the House will accept the changes the Senate made to the big reconciliation tax cut package. All that coming up and a whole lot more here on O'Connor and Company. It's Larry and Julie. Julie?
Yes.
We talked about the media just now. That Kamala Harris word salad interview with 60 Minutes that they edited to make her look as effective and articulate and as brilliant as possible. And by the way, I want to give credit where it's due. There's an account on X called Maze. He saw the first discrepancy of these two clips. CBS sort of owned themselves because they put out one clip of a question and answer on Sunday for Face the Nation to preview the interview that they ran on Monday night. And in so doing, they revealed that the Monday night version had a different answer to the question than the Sunday morning version did.
Right.
Mays picked up on that, put them two side by side, and it was obviously a journalistic decision, a choice to make her look better, to make her look smarter for the audience.
And again, this is legacy media that for so many years could do whatever they wanted and not get caught. Yep. But X and citizen journalists and alternative media are one of these things that are messing up that whole kind of situation that they have.
Andrew Breitbart would be so proud right now. and by the way, all of the legacy media people still to this day say 60 Minutes did nothing wrong. They did nothing right. Even our pals over at Fox News will say, like, well, that's a normal edit. You know, that's the problem if that's a normal edit.
That's right.
And the real sin here is that when people saw it, they said, well, why don't you just show us the whole thing and let us decide? And they refused to do it. That's right. The sin. That's the sin, because they don't want you to say they know better than you, which leads us to this brilliant moment of journalistic excellence. Jake Tapper, of course, wrote his book about Joe Biden. He's making millions off of it. And the fact is, by trying to sell the book, he has to do a ton of media appearances, including long-form interviews and podcasts. And when his guard is down and he's talking for over an hour, he reveals little things. So here's, just so you know, this interview was with Ezra Klein at the New York Times. It was about 5 weeks ago, all right? But Ezra Klein was on Jake Tapper's show yesterday. And so I started researching it and looking at it. It's like, oh, Ezra, and it sounded like they had done a podcast together based on the interview they did yesterday on Jake Tapper's show. And thanks to somebody on social media who clipped out this little nugget, I want you to listen to this exchange where Jake Tapper describes what happened 1 year ago last week at that debate. But more importantly, I'm going to let it play. It's 3 minutes long. I'll let the whole thing play, and then we can discuss it in the next segment. But you need to hear how Jake Tapper, even to this day, continues to talk like a man who was part of the cover-up, who was trying to help Biden. Listen.
But what's it like for you being there? You're co-moderating that debate.
Yeah.
It begins.
He walked well first before it begins. He is late showing up. We're in Atlanta, in a battleground state, Georgia. The Biden won in 2020 and Trump won in 2016, and both campaigns and candidates had been offered walkthroughs. Donald Trump shows, and neither of them show up on time, of course, but the time for them to show up was still, laughably early. It wasn't really necessary for them to show up as early as CNN asked them to be. But Donald Trump shows up, and whatever you think of Donald Trump, he's a pro. Which one's my camera? What if I want to ask a follow-up? What if I want this? What do I do? When he's talking, when Biden's talking, is the camera on me, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I'm supposed to go out. The debate's starting at 9 p.m., which, by the way, was another shocker to me when I found out that they had agreed to do a 9 p.m. debate for an hour and a half. I thought to myself, that seems late. That's late for me. Like, how is it going to be for Joe Biden? I mean, I understand Donald Trump runs on some energy force that I don't understand, but that's late. But okay, I guess they know what they're doing. I think there was a degree to which I guess they know what they're doing infected the heads of so many of us covering him. Because why would you put him out there for an hour and a half debate at 9 o'clock at night when they could have agreed to a 7 p.m. debate? Because at 8:30, I'm supposed to be out on stage just sitting there, and they're doing lighting and all that stuff. And I can't go out there because Joe Biden has just shown up a half hour before the debate. He's supposed to have been there hours before. And why was he so late? Because he didn't think he needed to do it. He didn't think he needed to do a walkthrough, which is crazy. Every candidate does a walkthrough. Barack Obama did walkthroughs. Like, you just do this. So he walks out. He hobbles out. He does that shifting thing, shuffling thing, seeming really old. But I had seen him, so I was not surprised. He starts talking. He obviously has a cold. He sounds awful. His voice is already thinner and reedier than it had been. But now it's really bad. His first answer's whatever, it's fine, serviceable. But then he gets to that horrible answer where he completely loses his train of thought.
Eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicaid, beat it to death, and he's just.
And we have these iPads, and I wrote to the control room, "Holy smokes!" And Dana writes to me on a piece of paper, "He just lost the election."
There you go. Did you hear him say? What were they thinking, putting him out there like that at that time?
That's right.
What were they? I mean, they're. It's like he's like, come on, guys, this is my team, and you're messing up my team.
Well, and also there's this idea of like, we would have totally been. You made it hard for us to deny. You screwed up so bad.
Exactly.
You just made it. You made it impossible for us to stand up for this guy. Right. What are you doing?
We could pass our notes to each other.
9 p.m.
Yeah.
Yes.
But, in fact, more observations on this extraordinary little exchange that went unnoticed, actually, until now. It's 5:44.
Breaking news and the inside story on 105.9 WMAL. Making sense of the news.
When I found out that they had agreed to do a 9 p.m. debate for an hour and a half, I thought to myself, that seems late. That's late for me. Like, how is it going to be for Joe Biden? I mean, I understand Donald Trump runs on some energy force that I don't understand, but like, that's late. But okay, I guess they know what they're doing.
I guess they know what they're doing. And then he went on to say, I guess they know what they're doing was something that we all kept repeating to ourselves that sort of motivated them, throughout the entire presidency. He was president of the United States. See, again, they're talking like he's the quarterback of the team that they root for.
Exactly.
And they're in the stands and they're like, oh, what are you guys doing? Don't call that play. Come on. You're going to lose. He's the president.
Right.
And Jake Tapper is upset because he's not going to be able to function at his prime at 9 p.m. in a televised debate. What about when there's a war, Jake?
Yeah, I can't help but think. I mean, look, I kind of chuckle at the when Tapper says it's late for me. I get it. It's late for me too. I'm usually in bed by 9, but I'm not the president.
Thank you.
And a president should be functioning at 9 o'clock. If he is required, he should probably be up and reading something. And if he's required to do something in the Situation Room at 9 o'clock, my goodness, of course he should be functioning.
Also, I don't know if you caught this at the end. I know that this is like, this is our insider stuff, and this is what we news people do. But listen to cut 3E here. Listen.
And we have these iPads, and I wrote to the control room, holy smokes. And Dana writes to me on a piece of paper, he just lost the election.
Dana wrote to me on a piece of paper, he just lost the election. Now, this was on June, I want to say 27th, if I remember right, June 27th, maybe June 26th. The dates are all scrambled right now. But it was last week. It was a year ago last week. Joe Biden continued to serve as the candidate for president for another 3.5 to 4 weeks after that moment. Dana Bash, anchor at CNN, covered the campaign, covered the Biden presidency, covered, interviewed members of the cabinet, interviewed members of the Senate. Did Dana Bash ever let on to the viewers that she believed that Joe Biden had just lost the campaign that night? Was there any revelation to the viewers that Dana Bash believed that? Was there?
Let's just for a second imagine if Trump had done that.
Yeah.
Let's imagine how Dana would have commented on how.
Do you think
he
there would
just
have been
lost
different commentary?
You think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think she would have conducted herself a little differently in the interviews with those senators of Donald Trump's party?
Do you think maybe they would have tried to get him tangled up? Tried to, take advantage a little bit of his confusion.
Exactly.
If Trump had stumbled on a question as badly as Biden Trump did on that Medicaid, they would have been relentless. They would have pounded him. They would have said, "Why are you messing? What is wrong with you? Are you okay?"
That's right.
They would have.
Jake Tapper and Dana Bash are the kind of journalists they're the worst kind.
They're activists.
Because they go on CNN and they pretend like they don't have an opinion.
Yep.
They pretend like they don't have any sort of bias or agenda, or they're completely objective. They're just reporting the facts. And now it is revealed that for a good 4-week period, while Joe Biden was still the candidate for the Democrats, Dana Bash did, in fact, have a very strong opinion. She believed that Joe Biden had lost the election that night in the second answer during the debate. Do you think that colored the way she covered that campaign? Of course
Also,
it did.
Very, very important point in this, in these clips, Larry, is that Tapper says, he didn't want to do a walkthrough. He didn't think he needed it. He shuffled out. He's giving all these inside, because he was there before the cameras went live, right? So he has all these thoughts. Did he share that?
Nope.
Did he share that?
Yeah,
He's a journalist. He should have
He's
shared
now
that.
sharing it. Yeah.
Right. Because he's making money off it. But that's the kind
the
of
next
commentary.
day on his show, he could have said, listen, you guys, you only saw half of what I saw.
Right.
I saw him shuffling on stage, barely able to move. I saw him show up hours late. I saw it, and he sounded terrible before he went. All of those things that he observed, he could have shared with his audience as a journalist, but he didn't. Only now in a podcast promoting
when he's going to make money selling his book.
He's making money on. And I want to remind you, the reason that we're beating up on him, the reason that we're revealing this, is because he's the one who will stand on his plinth, his pedestal. He will stand on his ivory tower, look down on the rest of us, and tell us that he's the only true journalist left in this town. It's 5:53.